Let me give you an example of how to do 4.2e, which is state an interval where sine, cosine, and tangent are either positive or negative. So you do have these four homework questions, so I made up a different one, this example here in the blue. This example here is very similar to number 5, and here's what it says. I want to know in what interval, or quadrant really is the same thing. So if we think about that, quadrants, right? We have quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I'm not going to ask you the number of the quadrant, I'm going to say what the interval is. So if you look at the various answers, here's an example, right, of how we would say the answers for interval notation. So to do this, in what quadrant is what I'm going to first do, is find where are the cosines greater than 0. That means it's asking me where are the cosine values going to be positive. The next one wants to know where are the sine values for theta less than 0. So that is asking me where are the sines negative. Now, what I need to recall is that the cosine-sine combinations, remember, it goes cosine and then it's sine for all the ordered pairs. Basically, that just means the xy ordered pairs. Now, anything in quadrant 1, if you take a look at how quadrant 1 works, we are going to go to the right for the x movement or cosine, and we're going to go up for the y movement or sine. So that means anything in quadrant 1 is a positive cosine value, means to the right, and it's a positive sine value, which means it goes up. Now, when we hit quadrant 2, these are going to be to the left and up. Anything to the left for my x movement means the x movement or the cosine is negative. And then on here, the y value would be up, so it's going to be a positive. So in quadrant 2, cosines are negative, sines are positive. In quadrant 3, it's a left movement and down movement. So my x movement is left, or cosine is negative. My down movement is a y, or the sine is negative. So this is a negative-negative combination. Then in quadrant 4, to graph anything over here, we would go to the right for my x movement, which means cosine would be positive, and I would go down for my y movement, which means sine would be negative. So these are positive-negative combos. Now, this particular question wants to know where are the cosines positive and where are the sines negative. So if you look at the various quadrants, the cosines are positive either here in quadrant 1 or 4, but I also need the sine to be negative. So of the two quadrants, the only quadrant that actually works for this one is going to be this quadrant 4. So I know the answer is somewhere in quadrant 4. Well, how do you say quadrant 4 with respect to these various options? This is called interval notation. So I want to know, you tell me where quadrant 4 starts and where it ends. Notice we are using values of pi. So quadrant 4, it starts here at 270 degrees. Again, we're not in degree mode, we are in pi mode. This is actually at 3 pi over 2. And then as we continue to move around the circle, we're going to end at 360 degrees. But again, I want it in pi's or radians. 360 is the same as 2 pi. So for this particular one, I'm looking for the interval that would say my x's are in between 3 pi over 2 and up to 2 pi. By the way, that is again the same in degree mode, the same as 270 up to 360. So for this one, I would look for that various combination, and for me, this right here would have been my example, or my answer for this particular example. Give that a try. That should help you with number 5. Number 6 and 7 and 8, it looks like is bringing in tangent. So for tangent, remember tangent just means the slope. So look at the slopes when you do that. The slope is positive if we take a look at it in quadrant 1. Right? Slope is rise over run, so slope is y over x. So if you do the y over x, a positive over a positive, the slopes of these blue angles I'm creating are all positive. Well, if you draw it, you can see it's positive. When you get to quadrant 2, any angle I draw we can see is going downhill. The slope is negative or the tangent is negative. Well, tangent is sine over cosine, so a positive over a negative is going to give me this negative. As you continue to do that, you're going to see in quadrant 3, the lines or the slopes are now going upward. because a negative divided by a negative is a positive value. And in quadrant 4, our tangents are all going downhill because here we have a negative divided by a positive, which are negative values. See if that helps, and let me know what further questions you have. Good luck.